How are y'all doing tonight?
Very good.
Good,
Doing good.
good. Good to see thumbs up. There you are, Andrea. I was looking for you. I see you now.
I'm here.
Awesome.
Are you ready for me to jump in or?
No, I'll start us off and then
Okay.
I'll hand it over to you and let you take off
Right.
with it.
All right.
Just giving us I usually start. I hate to penalize the people that are prompt and on class and on time. So, but I usually give us about a minute after on my clock in case my clock happens to be a little fast. Uh-oh, somebody's logging in as champion number 1. All right. Everybody here and see okay? Good. So I think we figured out remember how I said that I couldn't see everybody and see the slides, and I think Armin fixed me up on Monday night. So I think we are good to go. All right, so let me get out the syllabus. Today is Wednesday, January 12th, 2020. Today we're going to talk about the calculator class, and we have Andrea Friedman, who is the Assistant Academic Program Director for our program. She will be teaching the time value of money and going through the book with you guys. And then we will also discuss the quiz 1 that will open tonight that'll go through the weekend. So just a refresher on it. This is the quiz that you guys can work together or have open books on, or open book to work through this. This will be the only quiz in the whole program that you guys will have open book, but it's free to get you guys familiar with the Canvas quiz system and to get familiar with the time value money. So remember, you're going to go find it under resources and documents. You're going to download it. You're going to print it. You're going to work through it. So don't open it under the quizzes tab until you're ready to input the answers. Because once you open it on the quizzes tab, you're only going to have 30 minutes to input the answers. So at the point you work through it, it should only take you a couple of minutes to take the information you have from your paper and put it on the quizzes tab. But remember, that's going to close Sunday night. And you got to have it in by Sunday night, Central Standard Time at 11:59 our time here, PM, so that you get credit for it. And, sure enough, every semester, somebody forgets to submit their quiz or they forget about it. So don't let that be you, because, if we go back to the first page, quizzes represent 30% of the class. And so each quiz represents about 15% of the class. And, you don't want that 0. It's a lot of work you have to get to offset a bad grade. So any questions on the quiz or any questions before we get started tonight?
Yes, I didn't quite catch, where do we go to download it?
So, when you got to modules on Canvas, and there's documents, so it'll be down there, or it'll be listed under resources. That'll be a quiz. It'll say quiz 1 or time value of money. You'll be able to get it and print it. Just make sure you don't get it from the quizzes tab, because the quizzes tab, once you open that and you start quiz 1, the time will start ticking. So you only do that when you input your answers.
Yes, thanks.
All right, Andrea, I will turn it over to you.
All right, cool. Thanks. I can't even talk. That's not a good way to start, not being able to talk, right? Hi, everybody. Good to see you guys. Welcome, welcome. As Ben had mentioned, I'm going to go over the time value of money class. So just a little background, this class used to be done outside of here, and it was done on a Saturday that we set aside for you guys and it was taken via computer, like a recording computer class. And it doesn't exist anymore. So we had to come up with a way to teach it to you guys. And so I actually created this class based on this book, which you all hopefully should already have, the Financial Calculators Essentials. All right. And I've created all of these slides myself. So my first note is if there's any typos, I believe that I've caught them all, because now this is at least, I think, the third or the fourth time I'm doing this class. So, if there are any, I apologize in advance, but I think I've caught all of those. All right. The biggest course of success, learning how to use your calculator. All right. And we are only teaching this 10B2 plus calculator because, quite frankly, I don't know how to use any other ones. I don't know if Ben uses a different one or not. He might. Yeah, so he uses this, looks like there's 12, is it the 12? Yeah. So I don't know how to use that. Now, the good news is that if any of you are using that calculator, it looks like you've got an instructor who knows how to use that. I don't. I learned how to use that. So I'm going to be going through the keystrokes using this calculator. In your textbook, however, though, I believe that they do have the keystrokes using a couple of the other calculators. But unfortunately, again, that's not how I'm going to be teaching you guys tonight. But one of the things I'm going to tell you is there's going to be a lot of repetition, and that is the key to success using this calculator, is getting, doing the motions on the buttons that you know when to press it. Okay, so I know it might be a little slow for some of you who are a little more familiar with it, but it's just to train your hand and your brain to know which numbers, which keys to press. Generally, it can run long. I'm going to make sure that I speed up. So as we go through the slides, you'll find that I'm going to go and start skipping as we get used to pressing some of the keys. I'm going to fast forward maybe through a couple of the slides because I'm going to say, hey, does everybody get it? And if I know that you all have an understanding, then we're just going to kind of move forward. All right. It's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of different things. We're going to start off real simple, and I'm going to end trying to do a little bit more complex questions that you're going to see probably later on their final, for example, or even as you go into some of the other classes like mortgage questions and things like that. On the Canvas, there's also some review questions and practice questions. I think there's 2 pages of them for you guys to practice after this class is over. And today I just posted the answers to those. They're handwritten out in my beautiful scribe, whatever. So excuse if you can't read it, but it's on there and it'll be available at 9 o'clock tonight. All right, but it's for you just to double check your answers. And it's a review of this. And once you complete this class and you're comfortable, then you all should do fine on your quiz and be able to solve, really any of the questions that are in this class for sure. Okay. Does anybody have any questions for me before we start? All right, so I'm jealous because Ben, you said that Armin showed you how to show your slides, and the students. When I do it, I only see like 4 students on the right hand side of my pane. Okay, so just if anybody has a question, I may not see your faces. And you'll see, because I'll ask whoever I see, do you see this or whatever? And so it's not that I'm singling any of you out, but that's who I see right there. And then I'll have to ask Armand if there's a way to actually see more people and my slides. Then I'll have to do that down the road, but I haven't actually been shown that. So Ben's ahead of me on that.
I can help you break on
Yes.
that, but I have all the students up, so I'll be here all night too. So
Okay.
between the 2 of us, we should catch everybody.
Great.
Andrea, this is Gloria. I have a quick question.
Yes.
Can you hear me okay? Okay.
Yes, I sure can.
Did you just reference a second book that we should have on financial calculations?
It's just this one, the Financial Calculations Essentials. It's the Dalton education. It was on your syllabus, I believe.
Okay. I need to pay closer attention. Okay.
Yeah, so you should have 2 books. Yeah, because everything, and now it shouldn't impede you tonight, because what I've done is I've taken screenshots stuff from the book, and that's what it's on the slides, but you're going to want the book probably, especially to go back and reference
Okay.
when you're studying. Yeah, because believe it or not, when you're getting ready to sit for the exam, you're going to forget some stuff, and it's going to be very helpful to have that book to go back and reference.
Got it.
All right.
Let me also add for attendance, I need everybody to make sure you have your real name on the slide. So I don't mind people having fun with this, but make sure that you have your name so that you get credit for being here. Because we have some interesting, or at least one interesting name tonight.
Hi, this
All
is
right.
Susan Malone. Can I just ask a quick question? I had some technical difficulties getting on tonight, so I missed what you said, Ben, at the beginning about the quiz. Is that something that I should know?
Yeah, well, so yes, it's just a reminder that the quiz is this weekend and it's going to open tonight after class, but to make sure that you don't go click it on the quizzes tab to start with, that you go to the modules tab and you find it under resources or modules. You'll see quiz 1, time value money. Make sure that you open it there so that you can work through the calculations. And then once you feel comfortable with all the work that's done, or by Sunday at midnight, or it's 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time, that you take all the answers that you have and enter them into the quizzes tab, because once the quizzes tab opens, you only got 30 minutes to get it all in. So it won't give you enough time to do all the work. So make sure that you do the work ahead of time and you don't open the quizzes tab till you're ready to input your answers.
Okay, thank you. And this is open book. Obviously, you're having us work on it, but we shouldn't be collaborating, or should we?
No, you can. It's open book. It's open notes. You can collaborate. And again, to Andrea's point, you guys need to thank Andrea, because y'all used to have to do this on an all-day Saturday. This was an all-day Saturday program that y'all had to participate in. And so she's taken it away from a Saturday and put it into regular class time. So that's good. And the other thing is that the reason, and I'll reiterate what I told you guys Monday, time value money, remember that test is an Agnoff testing method, and time value money can show up under any single one of the criteria. And so by knowing the time value money, you can get credit for education, or you can get credit for financial planning, or you can get credit for risk management, or you can get credit for retirement, or you can get credit for tax planning, because the calculations could be in any single section. And so even if there's a section that you're struggling with, if you know the time value money estate, any of them, if you know the time value money and you see that pop up as a question, you should think in your mind, hey, great, this is a time value money calculation. At least I know I'm getting this one correct. So that's why I think it's very important that you understand the calculator forwards and backwards, and you know how to do all these calculations, cold. And that's why it's real important that you listen to Andrea and work through tonight's class.
Thank you.
I'm just going to move my watch because I keep getting calls from HISD. Hold on. Even though I have my phone muted, I keep getting calls. Yeah, and to Ben's point, he's right, because you're going to hear this too throughout the program. There's going to be some questions on the big exam, being the CFP exam, that are gray. There could be 2 right answers. This is a way to get them right. Right? These are the black and white. It's either right or it's wrong, and on the calculator. And it can be tricky too. And you'll see some ways that that we can, you could be tricked, if you so to speak. And I'm going to talk about that. It's making sure that your calculator is set right. And we actually set you up to be aware of that on this quiz and on the midterm and final in here too, so that you catch those tricks, if you will, that could give you the wrong answer. Okay. All right. If there's no other questions, and if there's any questions, stop me. Okay. Because like I said, I have to move fast. There's a lot of stuff to go over in here, but it's not difficult. And here's another thing for any of you some people get scared when they think about the calculator. It's not scary at all. Once you get through and you learn how to use these buttons, it's not scary at all to do it. I did it. So if I can do it, anybody can do it. All right, so this is what we're going to talk about tonight. All right, you have, well, actually, there's some CFP board provided formulas. I don't know if Ben has showed you that or not, but eventually you're going to see that. All right, when you all sit for the exam for the CFP board, there are provided formulas that are going to be given to you all right, when you go and you sit for the exam. All right, and I think it actually, that might be in the first page of the book, is that right? I think Ben's holding that up. Yes, on page, yes, it's on the table of contents in your book. All right, that is what you're going to be given, and you're probably looking at that and you're like, oh my God, it's on the table of contents in your textbook. All right, you're going to be learning how to do those, believe it or not, in investments. Okay, none of those are going to be in general principles, but you will learn how to do that. Those are not the things that we're going to be covering today. All right, but you will be learning that in investments. So tonight we're going to go over the basics on your calculator. We're going to be doing some time value money calculations, and then we're going to do a couple of advanced time value money calculations, which again, you're going to be doing more of that also as you go forward into some of these other classes. But for example, when you all go over college funding, all right, that's a little bit more advanced, and Ben will go over that with you guys in this class as well, probably in the next couple of weeks. So just a little bit about me. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I've been teaching with the program since 2010. I've been in the business since the 90s. So I've been around a little while. I've worked for big firms, for medium-sized firms, and now I'm an independent contractor. So I basically work out of my house. I've got 2 kids. I sat for the exam back in when was it? 2004. And so that was back in the day. I think Ben and I might have taken it at the same time when we did it on a Scantron. And it was over 2 days at University of Houston. And then we had to wait 6 weeks to get our results. So things have changed a little bit in terms of the exam, but it's still hard. All right. So it's not any less rigorous. It's just less questions and in a shorter period of time. So it is not an easy exam to pass, but it is definitely passable. Again, I say if I can do it, anyone can do it. I'm a poor test taker. I never seem to pass the first time. In all honesty, I didn't pass the 7 the first time. I didn't pass the 60, what was it, the 63 the first time, and I didn't pass the CFP exam the first time. All right, there's no indication whether or not I was successful or I knew what I was doing. I just don't take tests well, and I've since learned how to take a test, which I think might potentially help me be a little bit better instructor. And so that's why I try to be very clear and concise, especially when I go through stuff like this, because I know what it's like and I know that it can be stressful. So I do try to add a little bit of humor in where I can, especially when we are talking about very dry things. And I thought this was funny from El Arroyo. And if you people, I saw there's a few graduates from University of Texas like me, but I thought this was funny. 2022 is already starting off to be kind of a bummer. Like we're all online again, instead of in the classroom. But I will, by the way, I'm going to be seeing you guys, I think the last night of class, right, Ben? I'm going to do the review. All right.
That's correct. Yep.
Yeah.
You get to do the fun class at the, let them do the review and.
All right. So, and just so you all know, I do also teach general principles. Ben and I alternate with cohorts, and I also teach the case class. So I'm very familiar with this course. And so, so I'll be able to review and tie things up for you guys. So, and I don't think I'm teaching any other classes, but you might see me pop in from time to time if Jillian's unable to pop in as she needs to. All right. So anyway, hopefully though, 2022 provides to be, or ends up being not a bummer of a year like 2020, right? All right, so let's get started. I'm going to move this out of the way so I can see. All right, so time value of money. It's a mathematical concept, and it will determine the time value of money at a point or over a period of time using a given rate of interest. Okay, so you say, well, what does that mean? Well, before we do that, let's look at your calculator, which is going to be your new best friend for the next year. Okay, you're going to probably be bringing this to all of your classes. You'll be using it, I'm sure, in almost all of the courses, right? So let's look at the different keys that you are going to be utilizing in here. All right, so up here, and actually, let me look at my, let me just see where I am right here. Okay. I'm going to go over what all of these keys mean, all right? But for tonight, we're going to be primarily using this first row here. The N represents the periods, the number of periods. The I/R is going to be your interest. PV stands for present value. PMT is payment, and FV is future value. Okay. Just like you have on your computer, you have like a shift key, right, to make capitals on your keyboard. This orange shift button. Okay, so I'll probably say the shift button or the orange button when I'm referring to that. All right. If you want to enact or populate things with anything that's orange, all right, your payments per year, the NOMs, the percentage, the effective rate, the payments per year, and the amortization, all right, you're going to hit your shift button first, and then you're going to hit these buttons that correspond with what key you're trying to utilize. All right. And so you'll be using that mostly for the payments per year. I don't think you're going to be using it here. The amortization, the beginning and ending, net present value, internal rate of return. Okay. This percent change, this cash flow button, and then this NJ button. So that we're going to be using those tonight as we solve these different questions. All right, so let's first do the first thing I want to do is have you guys set your decimals, okay, on your calculator. So the book generally will recommend that you set your calculator to 4 places. And you'll see that the answers that are displayed are going to be going out 4 places. All right, so this is how you're going to do it. Okay, you're going to hit your orange shift button. All right. And then you're going to hit the display button. Let me go back and show you. Your display button is going to be right here, your equals button. Okay, so you hit your shift and then display. And then you're going to hit the number 4. And then you should see your calculator automatically populate. It should say 0.0000. Okay, everybody got that? All right, wonderful. All right. So when we're, some of the calculations we're going to do, there's what we call even cash flows and then uneven cash flows. Okay, so again, if you're confused as we're going through it, don't worry, it'll make sense as we go through and answer the questions. So for even cash flows, that's when you have an annuity or a bond. Okay, an annuity or bond, if you're familiar with those, they pay, generally they're going to pay an even amount in some periodic time. Okay, it could be monthly, it could be semi-annually, it could be annually, okay, but it's an even amount. Okay, an uneven cash flow, on the other hand, is when they are periodic payments, but they're not constant. Okay, it's not an even amount, a constant amount. Okay, so when we are solving for even cash flows or annuities or bonds, we are going to be utilizing that top row on your calculator. Okay, the N, the I/R, the present value, the payment, and the future value. Okay, so that's the numbers, the interest rate, present value, payment, and future value. Okay, so now let's look at what those mean again. So I just mentioned it earlier, but here it is written out. Okay, so the N represents the number or the periods in the term. Okay, it could be stated as monthly, quarterly, or annually. Okay, this is where you could easily get tripped up on a question, all right, which I'm going to go through. For example, we are going to ask you questions about if a dividend or something gets, received on a quarterly basis versus an annual basis. Okay, if you don't change your calculator to the correct period, then you will get the wrong answer. And you know what? The wrong answer is going to be listed along with the right answer to make sure that you have set your calculator properly. Okay. All right. The interest rate. or the discount rate. Okay, so the interest rate is typically stated on an annual, a semi-annual, a quarterly, or a monthly basis. I do want to mention, so if you are looking at your textbook, I'm going to show you guys, part of the benefit of this class is that I show you guys shortcuts on your calculator. The book will show you some extra steps that you can do. Like if somebody doesn't want to switch their calculator, changing the time periods, then you have to do another step where you multiply or you divide to get the correct answer. I'm showing you guys shortcuts on how to avoid any extra steps because it's easy. That's where it's easy to mess up. Okay. So I just want to put that out there because that question usually comes out, especially if you're looking at your textbook. And it might even be, I'm talking about the big Dalton or the financial planning one, the general principles one. I can't even talk. All right. So just so you know, what I'm showing you are shortcuts, okay, on the calculator. All right. So we talked about the interest rate, the present value on a timeline. There's going to be timelines shown in your book, also in this calculator book. But it is the value of an amount as of today or at a time period that's 0 on a timeline. All right, your payment button on the timeline, that is when debt payments or saving contributions or income payments, any kind of periodic cash flow, that's what you're going to use on the register. Okay, it is used for even cash flows or cash flows of an equal amount. All right, and then finally, the last button on the top row, far right, is your future value, and that is the future value of an amount at some point in the future. All right. All right, now let's look at the uneven cash flows. All right, on an uneven cash flow, you're going to be using that if the question asks you to solve for net present value, that's what NPV stands for, or IRR, which stands for internal rate of return problem. Okay, this is when your periodic payments are not constant, okay, or you have different cash flows. So you're going to use these keys right here. So the CFJ, okay, that's a cash flow, and it's over here. So it is on the third row, middle button. Okay, 1, 2, 3 in from the left, CFJ. And then the NJ is the number of periods that the same dollar amount occurs. Again, if you're confused, don't worry. I'm just showing you where these buttons are right now, and then we will use those when we go through the problems. All right. Let's talk about when you use a positive and a negative sign on the calculator. So if you look over here, the plus minus sign or positive negative sign, it's on the first row, okay, or first column rather. 1, 2, 3, 4 buttons down. Okay, so that is going to indicate the direction of a cash flow. Okay, whether the cash flow is coming in, it's being received, or it's being paid. All right, so if the cash flow is being received, then that is positive, and anytime you're paying it out, it's going to be negative. So as an example here, if Karen is investing $3,000 per month into her IRA, all right, the money is going to be entered as a negative cash flow. Even though she's paying it to herself, it's cash flow that's going out. Okay. Now, Dave, on the other hand, has $50,000 in his savings account, and he expects it to be $100,000 in 10 years. Okay. In this particular example, all right, we have a present value that is $50,000. And we have a future value that's $100,000, right? In order for you to be able to solve this equation, you cannot have two positives. You cannot have a positive present value and a positive future value. One of them has to be negative, or you're going to get a no solution when you're solving that question. So the 50,000 is going to be entered as a negative, okay? And then the 100,000 is going to be entered as a positive. Now, I'm going to tell you in all honesty, it could be either way. The solution will come out right. It's just one of them has to be negative. Okay, so just remember, if you have a question that has both a future value and a present value, and you get a no solution, All right, it's because one of them that more than likely the issue is that one of those has to be listed as a negative. Okay. All right, in this other example, Lance has received an inheritance of $100,000, which consists of $15,000 per year over 15 years. All right, so those are going to be some payments that are coming in. All right, so $100,000 is entered as a negative, okay, because he's getting that today, and that's going to be his present value. And he's getting $15,000 per year. So that is a payment that's coming in on a regular basis. That's going to be as a positive. All right, and then here Faith borrows $200,000 for a home, and she's making $1,500 payments. The $200,000 is going to be entered as a positive, and then the $1,500 is as a negative. Okay, so let me show you how you're going to enter those. Well, we're going to do that in just a minute. So let's talk about the approaches. Okay, so the biggest problems in not getting the correct answer is that you have data entry errors. Okay, so the book has examples of timelines for purposes of time in here. I'm going to show you an example here and there of a timeline, but I can't go through a timeline on every single one. All right, but it is important to write down the time value of money variables. And when you look at, well, you're going to see how I type them out on the slides. But that's usually what I do is I write it down as I'm reading the question. I'll put, you know, N is this, I is this, PV is this, so that I know what I'm solving for. Okay. Clearing the register of your financial calculator after every single time is so important. Okay, if you don't clear that out, and we're going to go through that exercise here too, you're going to put all that data in, and it's still going to maybe potentially be remembering something from a previous question, and then you're going to get some crazy answer. You're going to be like, what? Okay, and so you want to make sure you clear it every time. All right, and then you'll populate the time value of variables in the calculator. So we're going to go through all that. So here's an example of a timeline. All right. It illustrates the amount of money, the timing, the direction, whether the money is going in or out. All right. So some of you, this might be very helpful to graphically, you know, to show where everything is on the timeline. All right. So you can put what the present value is here, what the future value is, if there's any payments, what the interest rate is, and the period of time. Okay. So this is an example of the timeline. All right, again, I cannot stress enough how important it is to clear your calculator every time you solve for a new question. The other benefit is I've talked about the compounding time, the one that could flub you up if you don't have your periods set properly. All right, your calculator is going to display whether or what the time period is that you have it set. So when you clear your calculator, let's all do that right now. If you hit your orange or your shift button, all right, and you hit your shift button, and at the same time, your C, which is right underneath that shift button, okay, in your display, I don't know what yours shows, but mine shows 1 PYR. Okay, what that tells me is that my calculator is currently set to 1 payment per year. Okay, which is where I want it, because that's actually how we're going to start with the compounding in our next little section here. Some of you, it might show something differently, and that's okay, because I'm going to show you how to set it in the next steps. Okay, but make sure that you have it clear. So shift C all, and you're going to again want to do that between each calculation. Everyone good so far? All right. All right, so let's talk about how we would be setting the period of compounding on our calculator. So we would be using annual, semi-annual, quarterly, or monthly. Okay. The question is going to tell you almost all the time, especially in this class that Ben is doing with you on any time value money questions, whether, you know, what time period it should be. All right, so there could be questions down the road, like in your investment class, when you all will learn more about investments and some investments like bonds, some bonds, most bonds, like government bonds, pay interest semi-annually. Okay, some pay quarterly. There might be a preferred stock that pays, a quarterly amount. And so those are times that you're going to have to be familiar with how often something pays out when you're trying to solve something for your calculator. But generally, the question will tell you, Susan received dividends quarterly for 18 years, blah, 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 blah. So then you know that you need to set your calculator to a quarterly setting for 18 years, okay? So again, you're always gonna check your calculator where it's set at before you start the problem. I've already mentioned if you hit your shift, your orange shift button, and you're clear all, it's gonna tell you what the period is set at, and then it's gonna clear your calculator. All right, so let's start with setting the compounding to annual, if it's not already set there. Okay, sorry, I've got dogs that are surrounding me here. Okay, so number one, you're gonna have your one, you're gonna hit the number one, and then you're gonna hit your orange shift button, and then you're gonna hit your payment button or the P/YR. Okay, so number one, hit the number one, two is your shift button, and three. Okay, when you do that, again, your display should show 1 PYR. That means that it's one payment per year. So if any of you had it set to something else, it now should be set to one payment per year. All right. Now, if we want to change it to semi-annual, that means that something is paying twice a year. Okay. Now we're going to hit the number two, your orange shift button, and then the P/YR, which is your payment button. All right. And then if you hit your shift see all button, your register should display 2 PYR. Everyone good? All right. So here, I just want you guys to practice keying in this. And so this is one of the shortcuts that I was telling you guys about. All right, how you can just set the calculator so that you're going to get the correct answer. All right, here, Holly's depositing $30,000 into an account that's earning 4% compounded semi-annually. Okay, so see, the question's telling you that it's semi-annually. So how much will the account be worth in 3 years? All right, so we know that the 30,000 is going to be our present value because that's how much it is today. She's earning 4%. That is compounding twice a year. And we want to know what the future value is going to be in 3 years. All right, so here are your keystrokes. Okay, so you're going to hit, so clear your calculator, number one. All right, it should already be set to 2 payments. So now what you're going to do, you're going to hit 3. So the way that I'm having you guys enter in the variables is in order of the way that they are across on your calculator on the top row. Okay, so number, interest rate, present value. Now you'll see that here under payment, okay, that variable is written out there. There's no variable for payment because there is no payment in this particular equation. All right, but and that's why there's a 0 there, but there's a future value. Now, I personally, I don't even write payment down and put a 0 there when I'm writing the variables because it's just not there. If it's easier for you to write it out and put a 0 there so that you know that there's no variable for it, then go ahead. That's how they're showing it in this book. Okay, if you're like, I don't need to put it on there, it's just going to confuse me, then just leave it out. Okay, and you'll find as I go through some of these, as we advance into these other slides, that I may not include it in some of the, in in the slides, you'll see that. Okay, so you're gonna hit 3, okay? Because it's 3 years. You're gonna hit your orange shift button, and then you're gonna hit your N button, which is the number, number of periods, and it's automatically gonna display 6. Because 6 times 2, 3 times 2 is 6, right? It's because it's paying twice a year. So it's actually over 6 periods that it's going to be compounding. Okay. All right. Now, your interest rate is 4%. So now you're going to hit the number 4 in your I/YR, and you should see it populate in there. Then you're going to take your $30,000. And this is $30,000 that she's depositing into an account. All right, so it is going out of her cash flow. She's paying it out. So it's going to be a negative number. So you're going to hit 30,000 and you're going to go hit your plus minus key, which again is in the first column, 4th one down, and you should see a negative 30,000 and you're going to hit PV and that's going to populate the present value. There is no payment. I'm just going to skip over that and I'm going to hit that future value key and I'm going to get 33,748. All right, did anybody not get that following these keystrokes? All right, I'm going to assume everyone's good on that. All right. So now you've just solved your first one. See, it's so exciting. All right. All right, setting the period to quarterly. All right, same thing. You're just going to hit. So I'm going to go ahead and clear mine out. And then I'm going to hit 4, my shift button, and then the payment button or the P/YR. Okay. And then I'm going to hit my shift button and see, and I'm going to see that it says 4 payments per year. So now that's done for quarterly. Okay. And then here's another example with Holly. Okay. So same thing. Holly's depositing $30,000. It's earning 4% a year, but this time it's being compounded quarterly. How much will her account be worth in 3 years? So again, if you all just input these quickly. Okay. So you hit your 3, your orange shift button, and then the N, and it pre-populates that it is 12 periods that it's going to be compounding. Okay, and then you hit 4 for the interest rate, and then the $30,000 negative for present value and your future value, and now that's 33,804. Okay, so you can see, which I shouldn't have to tell you, so if you look at the difference in the compounding, because you could have a question that says, which would be better if it's compounded, quarterly or semi-annually, you might have to figure out, or it might ask you what the number is, okay? You can see that it's actually more beneficial, right? If she compounds it quarterly because there's a little bit more money, right? All right, any questions on that? All right, let's do one more
And
with
Andrea, this is Gloria. I do have a quick question. So when we went through the second calculation and we shifted to quarterly, so I cleared out my calculator with the shift C. I think I did something wrong because I didn't get the quarters in there.
Okay, so you do the number 4.
Yeah.
Your orange shift button, and then hit the payment button, and then underneath it is this P/YR. And then that should set it to the register.
Okay.
And then if you hit C all, does it say 4 payments per year now?
Yep, it does.
That's it.
Got it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And then the last one is monthly. Okay. So you'll have a question again. We're going to see an example here. Same thing. You hit 12, your orange shift button, and then the payment or the P, because it's orange underneath, the P/YR. And then if you hit the orange shift button and the C all, you will see that it is now set to monthly or 12 payments or 12 periods. All right. And so in this case, it's the same question. Holly is doing her $30,000, earning 4%, but this time it's compounded monthly. Okay, so when you put in your 3, the orange shift button, and then the N, it displays 36 months for earning 4%. And the present value is $30,000. And you're solving for future value. So again, I'm just gonna tell you not to confuse you, but if you don't put in the negative $30,000 under present value, then the future value will show up as a negative. So you don't have to put that in as a negative, but again, one of those variables is always going to be negative, okay? Because you cannot have both a positive present value and a positive future value, okay? All right, so let's move on.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Sure can.
You say that it doesn't matter if you put the present value as negative, but would they test us and give us the same value for the future value as an option to choose, one negative, one positive?
No.
Okay, just.
That is a good question though.
Okay.
But no. Which is a legitimate question, knowing that, they'd like to trick you, but no, not in that particular case. Okay, now setting your calculator to beginning or end mode, all right? Again, this is also super important because there will be questions that if you're not paying attention, setting your calculator to either begin or end mode, you will get both answers, all right? All right, so let's talk about when you use the beginning and the end mode. And again, this will make more sense as you see questions, but end mode, so first of all, the button, okay, is you use your shift button, and then over here in the last column, second button down, all right, you see the orange begin, BEG /Y / ENY. Okay, that's where you're going to change your calculator to begin or end mode. So the end mode is going to be when you're using an ordinary annuity. As an example of that, that's like when a payment is being made at the end of a time period, like a mortgage, right? When you bought a car or a home and you close on it, they're like, oh, and you get a whole month free, right? You get a month that you don't have to make a payment. That's because you're paying it at the end of the period. Okay, you're not paying it at the beginning of the period. All right, savings contributions like IRAs or 401ks, well, those could be made at a beginning period, at the beginning of the month or the end of the month. Okay, but you're going to have questions that are specifically going to say, Ben made his IRA contributions at the beginning of each month for 12 years. How much does Ben have, assuming he earned 8% at the end of 10 years? Okay. It's important that you have your calculator set to begin, because one of the answers is going to be end at the end of the period too. All right. And you'll see that as we go through these questions. All right. Begin mode is used when you're working with an annuity due. Oftentimes the question will tell you that it is an annuity due. That is when a payment is made at the beginning of a period. An example of that is rent. The University of Texas, they want their tuition before school starts, right? They want that at the beginning of the school year, right? If you are going to be taking an annuity withdrawal for retirement income, you want that at the beginning of the year, don't you? Because you need to live on it, right? Not at the end of the month or at the end of the year. All right. So when you see questions like that, you need to be able to think in your head, oh, this is an annuity question. This is going to be in begin mode. Okay. And the question isn't always going to tell you. And I know that Ben and I have questions on the midterm and on the final where there's a little more advanced questions. And it's an annuity question, and you need to know that that's at the beginning of the time period, not at the end. Okay, so when in doubt, if it's an annuity, all right, or tuition, it's beginning. Okay, now when you all go through college funding questions, Ben will go through the different methods of that, and you'll see that there's, on different methods. Sometimes you do beginning, sometimes you do end, but for the most part, general rule of thumb, And Ben, feel free to interrupt me if you have anything to add on that. But that's going to be your rule of thumb when you use beginner end mode.
So another thing, if they have a case question and they say your client's going to start getting income in retirement, then anytime we see income coming to your client in a case, it's always beginning mode. And usually if they make a payment out, anytime they're getting income, they want a begin mode. Anytime they're doing investments, it's usually end mode, just as a general rule of thumb, unless you see otherwise in the question.
Yep. All right. How is everybody doing? Nobody's eyes are rolling in the back of their head yet? I'm a dog mom too, in addition to a child mom. So I like to have my little doggies up there. Okay, then let's move on. Let's start working on some time value money calculations. Let me see what time it is. So let's do a few things here. I am going to give you guys a break because I know you're going to need one. But let's try to push through. I'd like to get through this section. At least let's get it to the future value of a future amount. Okay, but let's talk about a present value of a future amount. All right. In this particular case, in this questions that we are going to be doing, we are going to take the present value of a future amount. Okay, so it's the current value today, and the future amount is going to be discounted over a period of time using an interest rate to get to our present value. So let's just go and look at this example here. All right, so here John requires $25,000 in 5 years. So we know that's his future value because he wants to make a down payment for a house. Assuming he can earn 6% rate of return compounded annually, so see, it's telling you all of this. How much must John deposit today to have $25,000 in 5 years? Okay, so in this case, okay, we're going to have our calculator sent to one payment per year because it's annually. All right. One of the things that I want you all to get in the habit of is that every time that you are inputting your period number, remember when I showed you guys when you have different time periods that you have to hit your shift button before you hit the end button, okay, to populate that properly. I'm going to encourage you to get into the habit of always hitting the shift button before you hit the end button. All right. So even though your calculator is set for one payment per year right here. All right. If you hit N, so you hit the number 5 and then N, it's going to populate to 5. So if I would actually hit 5, the shift button and N, and it shows 5. The interest rate is 6. The payment, there is no payment here because that's not part of the equation. Our future value is $25,000. And we are solving for our present value. Okay, so I'm just showing you what these variables look like, and we're going to actually do some keystrokes here on this next slide. Okay, so again, have your calculator set to one payment per year. Okay, so it should be, if it was already on 12 payments per year, you're going to do one shift and then your P/YR. Clear it out, and then you see it says one payment per year. All right, so in this example, we want to know what is the present value of $2,000 to be received in 5 years, assuming an interest rate of 15%. Okay, so if you were writing down your variables, all right, N is 5, I is 15, we're solving for present value. There is no payment, and our future value is $2,000. So here's your keystrokes. All right, so 5. Now I'm going to hit my orange shift button just because I want you to get used to it. And then my end button, and it should display 5. 15 is your I button. There's no payment there. $2,000 is our future value. So you're going to scoot over. That's going to be, again, the last button on the top row, last one on the right. And if you hit your PV button, you're going to get a negative 9943535. Okay. Everyone good on that? All right. Let's practice changing it to semi-annual. Okay. So go ahead and let's just read this question. Sydney's loving grandfather is going to give her $150,000. Woo, don't want to shortchange her. When she turns 21 years old, which is 8 years from now. Let's see, how much money does her grandfather have to deposit today if he can earn 6% compounded semi-annually? All right, so we're going to set our calculator to semi-annual, which is 2 periods. So you're going to do 2 shift button P/YR. And then I'm going to just make sure I have it set right by clearing my calculator. All right, our variables are, it's going to be 8 years is our number of years. All right, it's 6% interest rate. We're solving for present value. There is no payment. And we know that the future value is $150,000. So here's our keystrokes. So you're going to hit the number 8 because it's 8 years, your orange shift button, and then you're going to populate it in the end button and it will display 16 because it's 16 periods because it's semi-annually. 6 is your interest rate. There is no payment. And then it's $150,000. That's our present value. I'm sorry, that's our future value. And we are solving for present value, which is $93,475. All right. Everyone good? All right, let's just practice quarterly. All right, and I'm going to assume that if everybody gets quarterly, we're going to move on past actually, let's just go to monthly. Let's just skip quarterly. Let's just go over to monthly here. All right, so here, this is, I believe, the same one that we saw before. What is the present value of $2,000 to be received in 5 years, assuming an interest rate of $15,000 compounded monthly? All right, so I'm going to do 12 shift, the P/YR, 12 payments. When I clear out my calculator, my variables are N is 5 because it's 5 years from now. The interest rate's 15. We're solving for present value. We know our future value is $2,000. So we're going to hit 5 shift and N, which will display 60 for 60 months or 60 periods. 15 is your interest rate. There is no payment. $2,000 is our future value, and we're solving for present value, which is 949.1352 if you have the 4 decimal places. Okay. All right. So that is the present value of a future amount. All right. Now we're going to look at the future value. All right. So let's just look at what the time value of a future value of a present amount. All right, so let's just look at this example here with Holly. All right, Holly's depositing $30,000 into an account earning 4% compounded annually. How much will her account be worth in 3 years? Okay, so again, this is the same example that we showed before. We have Holly who is going to be, wants to know what the future value of $30,000 is in 3 years, earning 4%. So we're solving for the future value, okay? And we're going to be changing the sign here for the present value so that we have a positive and future value. But again, that's interchangeable. You don't have to enter it in as a positive or negative. It will come out correctly. All right, just again, throwing that in, but the examples that as we go through here are going to show the negative. So let's actually look at let's do this one in semi-annual compounding, because so you have all of these slides to go back, but for time purposes, that's why I'm skipping forward, because it sounds like you guys are kind of getting the hang of this. So let's look at the future value semi-annual compounding. So what is the future value of $25,000 invested today for 20 years, assuming an annual interest rate of 15% compounded semi-annually? So let's set your calculator to 2 payments per year, or 2 periods per year. All right, your variables are N is 20 because it's 20 years, earning 15%. Our present value is $25,000, and we want to know what the future value of that's going to be. So your keystrokes are going to be 20 for the 20 years, your orange shift button, you hit N and it will display and populate 40. The interest rate is 15, so 15, hit your I/YR, and the display shows 15. The present value is $25,000. We're going to enter that in as a negative. So you're going to hit 25,000, your negative button, which is again in the first column, fourth button down. And then you hit present value, and then it'll display a negative $25,000. There is no payment. And then you're going to hit future value, press the future value because that's what you're solving for, and you should get 451,105. Everyone good on that?
Hey, Andrea, on mine, whenever I do try to switch it to the semi-annual and I do the orange shift and PYR, instead of giving me 2, it's giving me 8, I believe, or 4, sorry.
Okay, so then you have it, you still have it set for quarterly. So let's try it one more time. So hit the number 2, the shift, the orange button, and
Mhm.
then the P/YR. And then on the display, it should say 2 point, you should see 2 on there on the display.
No, mine says 8 for some reason.
Okay, so hit your, let's clear out your calculator. So hit the orange shift button and the see all. And then what
Okay.
does that say?
When I do that, it says 4P_YR.
All right, let's try one more time. So hit the number 2, orange shift button, and then that payment button.
Yeah, so now that shows 8. So I'm not sure why, because it was following along at the beginning and then they changed.
Miriam, I got confused by this as well. I was hitting the wrong button. It's the PMT and not the N. Because
Which one?
says
Uh-huh.
the N button says X P per year, and
Yeah.
the PMT says P per year. And if you hit the
Oh,
wrong one,
gotcha,
it won't
gotcha.
change.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
that's what it was. Thanks, Ross. Yep.
Thank you, Ross. Yes, I can see how that is confusing. Yeah, so it's the
Yes,
payment.
that's what it
button.
was.
Yeah, payment/P/YR. Right,
Perfect. Thanks.
Absolutely. Okay,
Could we also just multiply 20 times 2?
you can. It's just an extra step. If you want to do that, that's what I was getting at earlier. If you want to do that, you can, or you can just use this as a shortcut.
So, and that's what, these are great calculators, because on my 12C, that's exactly what I have to do with interest. And anytime you do it on interest, you have to do it on number of payments. So I'm sitting there doing along with you guys, and every time I have to make an extra calculation for the number and extra calculation for the interest. And so I got to do it the long steps where y'all's calculator has that cheat code built into it. If you follow Andrea, and it takes care of all that for you. So it's definitely easier to do it y'all's way, but yes, that's the way I have to do it on a 12C. Is multiply and divide every time there's a change. And if I do 1 by 2, then I have to divide by 2 also.
Yep. And the book will show you that too, what Ben was talking about. All right. Let's do, let's go and do the quarterly here because we skipped over quarterly in the last one. All right, so William bought some stock for $100,000. He's expecting it to increase at 6% compounded quarterly for the next 5 years. How much is the stock expected to be worth at the end of the 5th year? And so they put end in there, so that's important too, just making note of that. All right, so now we're going to set our calculator to 4 periods. So you're going to hit the 4 orange button and then the P/YR, also the payment button. All right, to input that calculator to 4 payments per year. All right, and so here are our keystrokes. We have our variables over here, but I'll talk through them here as well. So the 5 for the 5 years, your orange shift button and N, and that will display 20 because it's 20 periods, or it's going to be, those quarters. So 20 quarters. All right, 6 interest rate. So 6 I/YR, second button on the top row from the left. Our present value is $100,000 that we're going to enter in as a negative. So 100,000, hit your negative button. and present value to input the $100,000. And we are solving for future value, which is $134,685. Okay, so you guys can see how if you did not have your calculator set to the proper time period, how it could mess you up if you didn't clear it out and check it. And that is what your quiz is that is going to be opening up tonight. That's almost what it's all about, is each question is going to change from quarterly to annually to monthly. And you just have to make sure that you change those time periods. And I know that Ben will agree with me that in anybody who doesn't do well on those questions, they just didn't pay attention to changing the time periods, because it's not a difficult quiz at all. That's usually what people miss, is if they didn't change the calculator to the correct setting.
Yeah, and so to that point, I mean, and after doing this for 30 years, I still like to write NI, PV, PMT, and FV anytime I'm doing these, whether it's with a client or for class. And I take the extra step to write that down, write down what they're asking for, and write that in there. It's too easy to start getting things keyed wrong, and so always clear the calculator. In my opinion, I always like to write those down so that when I'm inputting it into the calculator, I make sure that I get it right. It's too important to get all these calculations correct on the exam, because there's going to be enough questions that are going to try to trick you.
Yep.
These, if you know the math and you know your calculator, you should get 100% of the calculations correct. So make sure that you're inputting the correct information.
Yeah, for sure. All right, do you guys feel comfortable with this and changing the calculators, right? So I'm going to maybe skip over this next one for the monthly. Okay, you guys can always go back and.
I have a quick question.
Sure, Daniel.
Whenever you switch from beginning to end, do you ever see the end on the calculator, or is it just show beginning or not beginning?
Yes, that's a great question. So if everybody go ahead and do that, because we're gonna, I should have had y'all do that before, I'm sorry. So if you hit your orange shift button, so first when you look at it right now at your display, mine's in end mode, so I don't see anything on my display, okay? But if I hit my orange shift button and I go over to the begin end, which is in the second column, second button from the far right. So far right column, and it says MAR in white, and then beginning and ending in orange. If you hit your shift button and then that button on your register, on your display, you're suddenly going to be seeing BEG on your display. Okay, that's how you know that your calculator's in begin mode. Okay, so that's a great question. Yes.
So the default mode is always
And
end.
yes. And again, what I will tell you is that oftentimes, almost all the time, if you have a question, they're going to give you both the begin mode and the end mode answer. And if you do not have your calculator set to the right mode, you're going to get it wrong. Okay. One of the, well, now I'm a person that likes to write and highlight and circle. I think that would have been harder for me to take this exam online, because I can't circle anything. You know, when back in the day when Ben and I took it, you know, you could write down on your exam and underline things and circle things. You know, I'm a better test taker like that, but you just have to, you know, however it works best for you guys, you know, just make sure that you pay attention to that. All right, we're going to just I want to hit on annuities. We'll start on that, but because like I said, I know that things can get a little boring. You know, what's your best guess about me? I know y'all don't know me much, but well, I've already given you a few things, but which of any of these animals do I have at my house? You can choose all: dogs, cats, pet snakes, backyard chickens, or teenage children. Anybody want to guess?
Dogs and children.
Dogs and children.
I do have dogs and children, but I also have chickens. That was our quarantine or whatever, back in 2020, my husband, who is a super handy guy, we were out walking with the kids, and there's a neighbor that has some chickens, and my son said, "Oh, we should get some chickens." And my husband goes, "Yes, and we should build the coop." And anyway, he built a beautiful coop for our chickens. And so yes, we have 3 girls in our backyard, in addition to a greyhound, a little tiny dog, and a little white dog, and my 2 children. So it is busy here in my house. All right. Let's talk a little bit about annuities. We'll start in on this, and then we'll take a break. All right. An annuity, it is a recurring cash flow. All right. It's an equal amount, and it occurs at periodic and usually regular intervals. All right. So we have 2 types of annuities. An annuity due. So this was actually good timing, Daniel, that you brought this up, the question about beginning and ending. All right. An ordinary annuity is a payment that occurs at the end of a period. And an annuity due is a payment that is made at the beginning of the first period. All right. So as an example, all right, I'm a Longhorn. All right. Boy, not a good year to be a Longhorn football fan, or a Texans fan for that matter, right? Woof. But an annuity due, it is a repeating payment that is made at the beginning of each period, such as rent or tuition. Okay. So if you see a tuition question or a rent question, all right, that payment is going to be in the begin mode. That's where you're going to set your calculator. All right. So again, UT wants their payment at the beginning of the school year. Or again, if you are going to be taking an annuity payment, you want it at the beginning of the year to live on. Okay. You usually will use annuity due for capital needs and for education. All right. An annuity due, an ordinary annuity, it is when the payments are made at the end of the month, like a mortgage. Okay.
And so what we got to not get confused with here is annuity is also a product. There's also annuity products out there that are insurance, but the real definition of the word annuity is systematic payments or systematic period payments. And so what we're referring to when we do time value money calculations is consistent payments over time. So don't get confused when we hear annuity as in the product, but as in a cash flow situation here. And so a lot of times people get confused. Wait a minute, we're talking about annuities here. Is this an insurance product? Yes, an insurance product is called an annuity, but really the word annuity is a definition of periodic payments over time.
Yep.
Don't let that confuse you.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I remember that confusing me back when I took the class too. So that's an excellent point. Thanks, Ben. Okay, so let's look at setting your calculator in begin mode. Okay, well, which we just did that because Daniel knew what we were going to be talking about. All right, so we just went through the keystrokes. So you should already know orange, shift button, beginning and ending. Okay. All right, and again, if you want to go back to end mode, you're going to hit your orange shift button, the beginning and ending button, which again, it is the on the second row, last, or on the far right, I guess if you're going, depending which way is beginning to you. All right, under the white, it says MAR, and beginning and ending is below that. All right, so here's an example. We've got Kenny who's depositing $100 into, this is, by the way, it's an ordinary annuity example. Okay, so it is being made at the end of the year. It says specifically here, Kenny is depositing $100 into a savings account at the end of each year for 3 years, earning 5% annually. What is the account value in 3 years? Okay, so we've already done a future value question, but in this particular case, there is a payment being made. So y'all haven't input payment yet, but we're going to be doing these keystrokes here in a minute. So this is really just an example for you to look at. But we would be having our calculator set to 1 payment per year because it's annually. So if you are following my my habit that I said, always hit your shift button. You'll hit 3, the number 3, the orange shift button, and the display will be 3 years. The interest rate is 5%. There's $100 payment going out, or say, you know, so there's cash flow going out. So we're going to put that as a negative and put that in. So 100 with your plus minus, and then your payment button. And then we're solving for future value because he's making periodic payments out. All right, we're solving for future value, which is $315. Okay, so that is an example of an ordinary annuity. All right, this is the same example, except that Kenny is depositing that money at the beginning of each year. Okay, so the only variable that's changed here is that it's going to be made at the beginning of each year. So now we're going to make sure that our calculator is set to begin mode. So we hit the orange shift button and then that begin end button, and on your display, it should show BEG at the very bottom. Okay, I need to correct my payments per year. I still have it set to 2. All right, so your keystrokes are going to be the same. The 3 orange shift end button to display 3 years, earning 5% a year. There's still $100 a month. I'm sorry, $100 going into the account at the beginning of each year. So 100. And we're solving for future value, which is 331,0125. Okay, so again, if I had this question on the test, I would have 331,025, and I would also have 315,25. Okay, so be really careful with that. All right, so let's go ahead and do some practice here before I let you guys go take a quick break. All right, so this is going to be a present value of an ordinary annuity, and we're going to be doing annual compounding. So what is the present value of an ordinary annuity of $1,000 received annually for 10 years if the discount rate or the interest rate is 12% compounded annually? So we know it's annually. We know it's an ordinary annuity, OA. If you see OA, that means that it's set to the end mode. Okay, anytime you see that. If you see AD, that means annuity due. Okay, so we're going to set our calculator to 1 period, annual period, 1 shift PYR. And here are our variables right here. So let's just go over to the keystrokes. All right, so you're going to hit the number 10 for 10 years, your orange shift button, and then N to populate 10 years. The interest rate is 12%. So that's your I/YR. All right, the $1,000. All right, you're getting $1,000. So we're going to put that in as a positive number. Okay, that's your payment. And we are solving for present value. And you should get, it's going to display as a negative 5,650.22 cents. I can't see the whole thing because I've got the, you see some of your faces. Okay, did everyone get that? All right. Let's go ahead and just do semi-annual. So what I'm going to start doing here, I should have all 4 periods on here, but for time, if everyone's comfortable with changing their time periods, I'm just going to skip around to just a couple on each one, okay? All right, let's try semi-annual real quickly. Like I said, there's a lot of repetition here. All right, so here we've got Jill. Won the Georgia lottery, and she is going to be receiving payments of $300,000 twice a year at the end of the month for 10 years. How much must the state of Georgia deposit into her account, earning 8% compounded semi-annually over 10 years? All right, so we're going to set our calculator to semi-annual payments. All right, so it's the 2 shift P/YR. All right, and here are our keystrokes. So it's 10 years. So it's 10, your orange shift button N, which will automatically tell your calculator that it's for 20 periods. Okay. Our interest rate is 8%. So eight is IYR. We've got $300,000 in payments coming in. I would love to get that. Okay, so it's 300,000 payment, and that will be in your display. And we are solving for present value, which is 4,077,097,097. Okay, everyone feel pretty confident with this? Okay, so the next two examples, they're just different inputs, okay? And one is going to be quarterly and one is annual, okay? But since it looks like you guys are getting the hang of this, all right, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to do the present value of an annuity due, and then we'll take a break after this. All right, so let's go to our examples right here. I'm just looking to see where I am. Okay. So again, the annuity due, or if you see AD, all right, it occurs when the timing of the first payment is at the beginning of the period, like right now. All right, so if you're looking at a timeline, it's going to be a time period of 0. So again, examples are rent, tuition, okay, retirement income. So this is when your calculator is going to be set to begin mode. All right, let's go ahead and go to, I'm going to go to quarterly payments right here. Okay, because we've already done the annual and the semi-annual. So here we've got Sally is required to make quarterly alimony payments of $5,000 at the beginning of each quarter for 3 years to Harry. How much must Sally deposit today to meet these payment requirements if she can earn 12% compounded quarterly? All right, so we're going to set our calculator to 4 periods. So for the orange shift button and your payments per year, your calculator should be in begin mode. So you should be seeing on your display button BEG. Okay, so orange shift BEG, your display is there. Then you're going to do your payment, your number of years or your number of periods. So it's 4 years. Okay, but it's going to be done quarterly. So for the orange shift button N, and you have a display of 12, it's 12% per year. All right, she's making $5,000 in payments. So you're going to plug in the $5,000. Okay, you could have that in as a negative. Okay, if you do, then the present value that you're solving for is going to show up as positive. So remember, I told you, you'll see me interchange these with positive or negatives, but just so you know that, they both cannot be positive. All right, so in this case, $5,000 is the payment, and I have it in as a positive, and I'm solving for present value, and the display is going to be 51,263. Okay, so again, on a test, the end mode answer will be there too as an option. I know I keep repeating myself, but I think it bears repeating.
Sorry to interrupt, but when I put 4 orange shift N, I get 16, not 12.
I think it should be 3 orange shift and
Oh, so I told you I might have a typo.
There we go.
And there's my typo.
All right.
Hold on, let me write that down so I can fix it. Hold on, I got to see what number this is. Let's see, this is my, hold on, I'm going to write this down. Begin mode. I can't even tell what number this is, but hold on, quarterly compounding. Thank you for catching that. I am not infallible. All right. So I had it right here. I just didn't change that. So, all right, so I will update that. Okay. All right, and then let's go to this last one before we take a quick break. All right, it's again, present value of annuity due, but we're going to do monthly compounding. All right, Thomas wants to collect a monthly income of $1,500 at the beginning of each month for the next 6 years. He expects to earn 8.15% compounded monthly on his investments. What is the total amount of money he should deposit today? All right, so now you're going to set your calculator to monthly periods. So it is 12, orange shift button, P/YR. Okay, here are variables. N is 6, interest rate's 8.15. We're solving for present value, and we know that payment is $1,500. Okay, so our keystrokes, again, you're probably already in begin mode. All right, so your periods are going to be your 6, orange shift button, and N, which is 72. Your interest rate is 8.15. So 8.15 is your interest rate. Your payments are $1,500. He's collecting. It's a positive number. And we are solving for present value, which is $85,774. Okay.
Andrea, I have a question on the language.
Yes,
So this
sir.
one says 8.15% compounded monthly. How would that be worded if they wanted to define it 1% per month? Would they say that?
They would just say 1% compounded monthly,
That's kind of what it says here.
but it's 8.15.
Yes.
Wait, say that again. Wait, what's the question?
So I think I understand what you're asking, Ross. So when they give us a number on this, it's always going to be annualized unless they tell us differently. So if you're trying to say if they earn 1% per month, they would say 12% compounded monthly, and then it would be 1% per month. So anytime they give us a number, unless they tell us otherwise, it's going to be an annualized number, but then they tell us how it's compounded. So is it compounded monthly? Is it compounded quarterly? Is it compounded semi-annually, or is it compounded annually? And obviously the more times it's compounded, either the bigger the number is going to be at the end, or the smaller the number has to be at the beginning, because we're earning compounding on it. Did that answer your question, Ross? Is that what you were asking?
Yeah, that's where I'm going. So let's say it was 1% per month. What sort of language, if it's 1% per month, now we're looking at roughly 12.5% per year, right?
Yeah, so that's exactly
How would
what they would
how
say.
would they say the language for that
They would say
1% per month?
12% compounded monthly. Because again, anytime they give us a number, it's on an annualized basis unless they tell us otherwise.
Okay, so they're not going to be giving us questions where it's actually month and we have to convert to year or back and forth.
They will be very clear if they do that. If they just state a number like this, they're just assume that it's an annualized number.
Okay, thank you.
All right, let's take like I don't know, Ben, what do you normally do 10-minute breaks? What do you normally do?
I do 10 to 15, depending on what the time frame is and what we have left. But
Let's do 10 minutes, just because I don't want to run over or miss too much. So let's take a 10-minute break. So let's just call it, come back at 7:40. So, about a 13-minute break or so. So see y'all at 7:40. Okay, I'm just making sure that nobody.
Can I say something really quick? So
Yes.
Okay, just group. I know we're trying to make a group chat. I keep trying to add some of y'all's phone numbers. I don't know why it's saying like failed to add on group me, but I just sent like an individual text sharing the group. I think I sent it. Who was in the chat? Miriam and Danny, did y'all get the text with like the invite to join the group? Did that format work?
I got the text, but it wasn't a live link, so I'm about to copy and paste it now, I guess.
Okay, let me know if that works, then I can just send everybody an invite text. I'm not sure what happened. It added like 9 or 10 people. Everyone else, it just keeps saying failed when I type the number in. So I'm not sure. I don't really know what it is, but let me know if that invitation text work. And if that does, then I'll just send that to everybody.
Hey, Allison, it worked. So I did what Danny said. I copied the link because it
Yep.
wasn't a live link. Once I copied it, I was able to join.
Same. Thank you so much, Allison.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, then
Thank you.
after class, I still have everyone's phone number. So just sometime tonight, everyone should get a text with like an invite, and hopefully that will have us on track.
You're the best, Allison. Thank you for doing that.
No problem. I thank you, Andrea. Sorry, that was all.
No, that's great. No, I'm glad you guys are doing that. I think it's real important. I'm sure Jillian mentioned to you guys on Monday how she's like, I don't know, she was such good friends with somebody in one of the classes when she took it. They were in each other's wedding or something like that. So y'all need the support for sure. It's awesome. Okay. Hopefully you guys are ready to move forward. And so I'm just looking to see, I want to make sure that we're good with time. All right. Everyone comfortable so far, right? I know it's a lot of repetition, but again, that's going to help you guys. So, all right, so let's continue on. And let me share my screen here. Where is it? There we go. I have too many windows open, I think. All right. Y'all can see my slides, Miriam? Good. All right. Okay, so now we are going to look at, all right, the future value of an ordinary annuity. All right, so let's just go forward here and look at our question. All right, so let's go ahead and look at annual compounding. So this is a future value of an ordinary annuity, which remember, ordinary annuity, our calculator is going to be set to end mode. Okay, so what is the account balance of $1,000 invested at the end of each year for 10 years in a row, earning 12% compounded annually? Okay, so again, the question will generally tell you if it's beginning or ending, okay? And then it'll tell you the period of time. All right, so here our calculator again is sent to ed mode, okay? Here are our variables, 10 years, 12% per year. The payment is $1,000. We're going to change the sign to negative and we're solving for future value. So our keystrokes, 10, shift, N, again, just to be habitual with that. In the display, it's 10. 12% is our interest rate. There is no present value, okay, but they show the keystrokes. I mean, the variable, if you want to put that in, we're not solving for it, so you could even leave that out. $1,000 is the payment. It's going out, so it's going to be a negative. And we are solving for future value, which is $17,548. Okay. Also, one of the nice things about looking at these different questions is seeing different ways that the question might be asked. What is the account balance of $1,000, and what is the value? So that's helpful also to see different ways that questions are written. All right, let's skip and look at monthly compounding using the future value of an ordinary annuity. So I've just skipped forward over to monthly compounding. Again, just for time purposes. And I'm just going to my pages in here. So Josh and Beth make monthly savings payments of $1,500, and they saved 18 years to fund their son's education at an interest rate of 8% compounded monthly. How much did they accumulate at the end of 18 years? All right, so in this particular question, it is monthly periods. And it's at the end of the year, so we should be in end mode, which will not have any display on your calculator. All right, here are variables. So we're going to look at our keystrokes over here on the right. So 18 years, shift N displays 216 months, and they're earning 8% per year. The payments that they're making are $1,500 a month. And it's going out, and so it is a negative. And we are solving for future value, and that future value is going to be $720,000, 129 and 19.1922. Okay. Everyone good, comfortable on that one? And again, if you need me to slow down, just stop me. And I have to say, so far, this is the least amount of times I've been stopped in all the classes. So you guys are either catching on really well or you're too shy. But don't be shy. All right. Now we're going to look at the future value of an annuity due, which is begin mode. Okay. So let's look at, I'm just going to go to the semi-annual compounding here. All right, so Jennifer has been investing $3,000 at the beginning of every month of, I'm sorry, at the beginning of every 6 months in a mutual fund for 5 years and has been earning 8% compounded semi-annually. How much is the fund worth today? Okay. Yeah, and that's kind of confusing because it's how much is the fund worth today, but today is the future value, okay, in this particular question. Okay, she's been investing for the last 5 years, and so we want to know what it's worth today, but that's actually solving for future value. So we're going to set our calculator to 2 payments per year. All right, so I need to move this out of my way so I can see. All right, so I can't do that. Okay, so we have our calculator needs to be set to beginning mode because this is an annuity due, meaning she was saving at the beginning of the time period. So she was saving for 5 years, so it's 5 orange shift button and your N, which is 10 periods. She was earning 8% per year, saving $3,000 per month. I mean, not per month, but for every 6 months, twice a year. And we are solving for future value, which is 37,459.0542. Okay. Everyone comfortable with that and understand that? All right, let's look at the quarterly one on here. Kevin wants to start a business in 2 years, and he's depositing $20,000 at the beginning of each quarter for 2 years, earning 10% compounded quarterly. How much does he have at the end of 2 years? Okay, so we're going to set the calculator to quarterly periods, which is 4 periods. And our keystrokes, again, you should already be in begin mode. All right, so it's 2 years, but being paid quarterly. So we're going to hit our shift button and N, which is 8 quarters, earning 10% per year. He is depositing $20,000 each quarter. So that's money going out. So that's a negative. And we are solving for future value, which is $179,090. Any questions on these? Okay. This one is just monthly, but again, since you guys appear to be comfortable with this, I'm going to move forward. All right. So now we are ordinary annuity payment with a lump sum. Okay, I have to move this out of my way again. All right. So this is an ordinary annuity payment. Okay, or end of period payment. It's when the payments are generated at the end of each period based on a lump sum that's deposited today. So this calculation is used if you're trying to determine a payment, how much you have to repay a loan, okay, or the amount of income payments that can be generated from a lump sum amount. So let's look at this example here. So Jan has an investment account with a balance of $200,000, and she intends to make withdrawals each year for the next 10 years from this account. If the account is earning 7% compounded annually, how much can, it should be Jan, not Jen, but how much can Jan receive at the end of the year? Okay, so this is again going to be set to end mode. Okay, and here are the keystrokes. So this is just an example, and then we're going to actually do the keystrokes on the next slide. So it's 10 years. So it's 10 is N. She's earning 7% a year. Okay, the present value is $200,000. Okay, but she wants to know how much can she receive at the end of the year, and that's going to be $28,475. So let's go and look at this example here. So again, your calculator should be set to end mode. Okay, so it's an ordinary annuity payment with the lump sum deposit, and we're compounding annually. So in this example, Will has won the lottery and a lump sum of $5 million. He has decided to receive payments at the end. Okay, now in this particular case, all right, it's telling you specifically that Will has decided to receive payments at the end of each year for 15 years. So when Ben and I were giving that example, if you have an annuity and it doesn't tell you when they're receiving the payments, okay, always assume that it's going to be at the beginning of the time period. But in this particular situation or this question, they specifically tell you that the payments are going to be at the end of each year. Okay, so how much will he receive assuming an 8% discount rate or an 8% rate of return compounded annually? All right, so we're going to have our calculator set to 1 period per year. And here are our keystrokes. Okay, so it's 15 years, so 15 is N. He's earning 8% per year. And the present value is $5 million. So you're going to plug in $5 million. And he wants to know what is the payment that he's going to be able to receive at the end of each year. And you solve for payment, and that is $584,147. Everybody okay with that? Let's go look at the quarterly. Yes, go ahead.
A question. So the very last step where it says PMT, do you type in 0 PMT, or are you just clicking on the PMT button in order to get the actual answer?
Yes, you're solving because you're looking payment here. So that's, so in the other questions when we were solving for present value or future value, in this case, you're solving for payments. So the only thing you'll be plugging in are the first three, the 15, the 8, and the 5 million, and you're solving for payment.
Okay. Okay.
And I don't mean to rub it in, but I found another typo.
Uh-oh, where is it?
On the right side, it says 0 PV under the 5 million PV, and it should be future value for 0.
Yes, you're right. Thank you. Thank you. No, don't rub it in. Tell me, because you know, when you see this and you know what it's supposed to say, you see what it's supposed to say, not what it really says. So, okay. No, thank you. Anything you see, please, please, please tell me. All right. All right. I just dog-eared that, so I know to fix that. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay. All right, so let's look at quarterly over here. So as you'll see, I've started to just kind of skip over. I don't even have the monthly in there, but it is in your book. I think that all of these are, well, they may not be in your book, but anyway, let's just look. Bill owes the IRS $50,000 and is making quarterly tax payments. Assuming that the IRS is charging 8% interest compounded quarterly, how much are his quarterly tax payments over the next 4 years to fully pay off the amount that he owes? Okay, so we are solving for payment. All right, and here we have, if you set your calculator to 4 payments per year, your keystrokes are going to be 4 shift N, which will display 16 quarters. The interest rate is 8% per year. The present value, the amount that he owes is $50,000. And we were solving for payment. And so the payment that he needs to make over the next 4 years is $3,682. Okay. Everyone good with that? Now we're going to move on to annuity due. Okay, so same type of, same things, except now these are payments that need to be made at the beginning of the time period. Okay, so here we're going to be doing a semi-annual compounding. So we have Harry, who has a trust of $500,000, and he would like to receive payments every 6 months for 7 years. But he would also like to have, this is a good question. I like this one because it's a little more difficult. He would also like to have $50,000 left in the trust after 7 years. How much will Harry receive every 6 months if the trust earns, I can't see it, 6% compounded semi-annually? Okay, so beginning, that's how you know you set your calculator to begin mode. All right. So we set it to 2 payments per year, and we also set it to begin mode. All right, so you should already have that set up. In begin mode, for 7 years, you're going to do the 7 orange shift button in for 14 periods. 6% is the interest rate. Now, the present value today is $500,000, which is going to be your present value. Okay, but he also wants to have 50,000 left. That's going to be the future value. All right, so remember, since you cannot have both a positive and then 2 positives, present value and future value, you're going to enter that $50,000 in as a negative. Okay, and then he wants to know how much, what's the payment that he can receive with all of those variables input. And you're going to solve for payment, which is $40,132. Now, if you did not plug in either the present value or the future value as a negative, you would get a no solution that would come up on your display. And so the reason again for that would be because you did not put one of them in as a negative number. All right, so you all might see this is, I would probably consider this a little bit more difficult question. Or if you don't get that answer or an answer that's listed there, it's because you didn't put in that $50,000 as the future value. Okay. Let's look at a monthly compounding here. So we have Jerry has an IRA with a balance of $600,000, and he wants to generate retirement income by taking monthly distributions from his IRA. He wants equal monthly payments at the beginning of each month for 20 years. How much will he receive if he earns 8% compounded monthly? All right, so again, we're going to set our calculator to monthly periods. You should already be in begin mode because we've been in begin mode already. So it's going to be for 20 years, orange shift button in for 240 months. And he's going to be earning 8%. He currently has, his present value is $600,000. Okay, so again, if the present value was entered in as a positive, all right, then your payment number will show up as a negative. Okay, but in this case, we're showing that you can enter it as a negative. We're solving for payment. There is no future value here. And those monthly payments that he can generate at the beginning of each month is $4,985. All right, y'all comfortable with that? So we've solved for future value, present value, payment. Now we're going to solve for number of periods. Okay, so this is going to show you the amount of time to accomplish a goal. Okay, like how much time to pay off a debt, for example. So let's look here. Ivan has $25,000 that he's invested in a mutual fund that's earning 9% a year. And he wants to know, how long is it going to take for his investment to double? Okay, so our variables are 9%. The present value, we have a present value and a future value. Okay, so you have to know what that future value is. He wants to know how long it's going to take for his investment to double. What's that number? It's $50,000. All right, and we're solving for n, or for the number of time, the period. So our keystrokes here would be 9%. The 25,000 is a negative number here, and that's our present value. Our future value is going to be 50,000, because again, we have to have one positive, one negative, and we're solving for n. So it's going to be 8 years. Okay, so let's do some practice here. So how many years will it take for $45,000 to grow to $9,000, assuming a rate of return of 10.8146%? Sorry, that's cut off on my my screen here. All right, so our variables, we are solving for n. So we know what I is, we know our present value, and we are solving, and we know what our future value is. So the keystroke is 10.8146 is I. $4,500 negative is going to be our present value. Our future value is $9,000. And we are solving for n, which is 6.75. Okay, so let's look at another example here. I did a quarterly, so you can see I'm giving you lots of practice on changing your calculator. So Frank has $15,000 and he wants to know how long it'll take to double if he can earn 12% compounded quarterly. Okay, so because it hasn't told you beginning or ending, you're going to assume that you are in end mode. All right, this one, hold on. So let me move this out of my way here so I can see. Okay. All right. So keystrokes. He wants to know how long it'll take if he can double compounded quarterly. So our keystrokes are 12% is your interest rate. $15,000 is his present value. It'll go in as a negative. The future value is $30,000. And we're solving for n. Okay, but he wants to know, hold on. In this particular case, he wants to know, hold on, n compounded quarterly. N is based on the, yes, so n here. So this is how many quarters, okay, that it will take. And I'm just showing you this because it might say if it's compounded quarterly, how long is it annually? Okay, like the answer will say they want to know annually. So the n represents it's 23 quarters. Okay, but you have to divide it by 4 to get the annual number. Does that make sense to you all? Like they might ask you how many, what is it annually? The 23 is it's 23 quarters. You need to divide it by 4 to get it, the annual. Okay, so you could see when that's a little more complicated. Normally on the test that Ben and I give you, we don't do that. Okay, I'm just again showing you different ways that you might see this, see the answers, the options for the answers. Okay. Moving along, if there's no questions, it's 8 o'clock. Okay, good, we are good on time. Now we solved, showed you number of years or periods, present value, payment, future value. Now we're going to solve for interest rate. Okay. So Joe has borrowed $25,000 to buy a new car. And this is actually quite handy. I mean, this is something we would do in real life, right? When we're trying to figure out an interest rate. But anyway, he borrowed $25,000. His payment is $600 per month at the end of the month, and he's making equal monthly payments. I'm sorry, my dogs are howling in the background. If you all hear that, I apologize. for the next 4 years. What is the implicit interest rate on this loan? Okay, so basically they're just saying, what is the interest rate on this? So car payments, if you see any questions that's related to a car payment or a mortgage payment, how often, what's the periodic payment that you have to make on those? It's monthly, right? So if you see a question that reflects a car payment or a mortgage payment, you know that that's monthly. So you need to make sure to set your calculator to 12 payments per year on those. All right, so our monthly payments, our keystrokes are, it's for 4 years. And for monthly payments, so it's going to be 48 months. He's borrowing $25,000, so that is your present value. And he's making payments of $600 per month at the end of the month. So you should have your calculator in end mode. And that's money that's going out, so that'll be negative. And you're solving for I. So the interest rate that he's paying on that car payment is 7.1158%. All right, so let's do an example here. We have Jethro. He purchased a diamond 7 years ago for $800. And if the diamond could be sold today for $1,200, what is the average compounded rate of return that Jethro realized on the investment? Okay, so this is an annual because it doesn't tell you anything other than that. Well, and so you're going to set your calculator to 1 payment per year. So it's 7 is N for 7 years. He bought it 7 years ago, which is going to be the present value, for $800, and he paid $800 for it. So we'll set that as our negative. And today it's worth, or our future value, it's worth $1,200. So we're going to plug that in as a positive, and we want to know how much he made on that investment. So we're solving for I. And he earned 5.9634% on that return, on that investment.
Excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt, but a few slides back, I've been getting no solution on my calculator for a couple of problems, and I can't figure out why.
It's going to be a positive and a negative problem. So do you remember which one it was on?
This one right now, the last one.
This one right here?
Well, actually, oh wait, let me get it. Yeah, so that one I haven't been able to, so let me just get.
Yeah, so the present value needs to be negative and the future value needs to be positive.
Yeah, I'm going through your keystrokes and I have it set to 4 payments a year. So I do my 12 and then 15 and then get that negative. Value, and then I hit N and I'm getting no solution.
Okay, so clear your calculator. What do you see when you clear it?
When I clear all, it says 4.
Okay, hold on, let me
year, and it's in end mode, so I don't see anything displayed.
Okay, hold on, I'm just setting mine with you. Okay, so I'm going to do 12 and then I.
I or I/YR?
Yes, I/YR. So the second button on the top row from the left.
Right.
All right, and then you're going to do 15,000 and hit your minus button.
Oh, so I do the minus button first, even though in your.
Yep. And then it should display negative 15,000, and then you plug in PV. And then you're going to do 30,000 and you're going to hit your FV.
It's the way, I mean, I was doing the keystrokes exactly how you had them written. And so the plus minus is after you hit PV. And when you do that, at least for me, I got no solution.
I see. If I had it the other, I see what you're saying. Yes, I just need to move that sign in front of the PV.
Yeah.
I'll do that.
Yeah, and that's on a couple of slides prior.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'll just swap that out.
All right. Thank you, because I was getting.
You're welcome. No. Like I said, you know, because I make these myself. That's the one unfortunate thing is that we don't have any slides that came with us. So yes, I will fix that for sure. But I'm glad that we figured that out. And it looks like I have it on here too, that same way. I really what I was noting is that that should be a negative. But now I see that it's, yeah, I'll fix that.
And whenever you do that, whether it's a negative present value or like in that one question where you had the payment as 600, it should still, the negative positive should be in front.
Yeah, so you'll always hit the negative before you plug it in to the variable. So you put your number in, you know, you plug like 800 and then you hit the minus, you know, the plus minus button so that it shows that it's a negative 800 and then you would hit present value.
Okay, great. Thank you. Sorry,
You're
everyone.
welcome. That's okay. And the book might show it this way too. It's just noting that it should be a negative number. But I'll fix that on there so that it flows and makes more sense for y'all.
All right, thank you.
No problem. Thanks for letting me know. Okay, so so that was solving for I. Okay, is everyone comfortable with that? Okay. All right, now let's get into a little bit more complex. And the worst thing about, you know, getting more complex at the end is that y'all are starting to get tired, and I'm aware of that. But let me see how many more I've got here. So make sure that I'm good on time. Okay. Time value of money using uneven cash flows. All right. So sometimes there are investments or projects where you have cash flows that are not even dollar amounts, and they cannot be solved with the keys that we've just been using, that top row. Present value, number of periods, interest rate payment, and future value. Okay, so we're going to be using uneven cash flow keys to solve the problem. On your 10B2, remember I showed you at the beginning of the class that there are the keys that you're going to be using for uneven cash flow, which are CFJ and NJ. Okay, so again, that button, if you look, it's on the third row from the top and the center button in that row, CFJ and NJ. Okay, CFJ is a cash flow of all subsequent time periods, and the NJ is when you have the number of time periods where the same dollar amount occurs. Okay, so again, that should make more sense as we do some examples. Okay, but if you look over here at uneven cash flows, you can see in the right hand column where you've got you have $1,000 going out, and then we have $50 coming in year one, $235 coming in year two, and $1,100 coming in year three. So let's go ahead and skip to an example here, and then we'll do some practice ones. So Cheryl is making the following investments to her savings account. Okay, now here in the 12C, which Ben has, right, it shows these keystrokes. This comes from your book, but I'm just going to again focus here on the 10B2 keystrokes. Okay, so Cheryl's making the following investments to her savings account. In year 0 through 4, she's making $200, which is a total of 5 deposits, because year 0 counts as a time period. Okay, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So she's making 5 deposits. Okay, so when you're plugging that into your calculator, okay, you're going to say 200. You're going to hit the plus minus sign and CFJ. And then you want to tell your calculator that that she's making 4 more deposits after that. So you're going to do 200 CFJ. Then you're going to hit the number 4 for 4 more deposits, your orange shift button, and the NJ. Now that's just told your calculator that there are 5 cash flows of $200. Okay. In years 5 through 10, she's now making $300 for a total of 6 deposits. Okay, so now we're going to tell your calculator that. So you're going to put $300, your plus minus sign, CFJ, and it's for 6 deposits. So you're going to do 6, your shift button, and NJ, and now that's now told your calculator there's $300 for 6 years or 6 time periods. Then in years 11 through 15, she's making a total of $400 for over 5 deposits at 5 time periods. And so you're going to tell your calculator $400, the plus minus CFJ cash flow for 5 years. So 5, your shift button, and NJ. Okay, so your NJ is a shortcut so that you're not hitting CFJ 5 times or 6 times or 5 times. So basically it's a shortcut. So let's do some practice here. Oh,
Can I actually ask a quick question?
yes.
Okay, so where you do the 200 for those 5 deposits?
You should be able to do it for 5. The book shows it that way. So you could probably do 200 CFJ 5, the same way. Yeah.
Okay, okay, perfect.
The book does that, I know.
Okay.
All right. I like here real quick. If you could have one superpower for a day, just to wake you guys up, Daniel, what would it be?
Probably to be able to fly.
To fly? I like that. Hold on, let me see who else I can. What about Allison?
Okay, well, I probably would have said fly too. Either that or like being invisible. I think that'd be interesting.
What about you, Dave?
I don't know.
I just saw Spider-Man with my kids, so I want to be swinging through, New York City, saving people. That looks like fun. Anybody else want to share one?
I'll do time travel.
Ooh, where would you go?
I don't know. I think that's one of the most interesting things is when you go into historical sites and just to imagine how things were before, but to actually be able to travel to that time period would be pretty amazing.
That would be pretty cool. Any time period you could think of off the top of your head you would like to go to?
I don't know. I can't think of one specific one.
All right, cool. Thank you all for sharing. And just for time purposes, I would call on more of it. It's 8:20 and I want to make sure we get through this. Okay, moving on. See, I do try to make it, let me see if I can get this. Okay, hold on. Okay, there we go. All right. So net present value. All right, net present value is used, let me get this out of my way, when managers are doing budgeting, okay? If investors are looking at investment alternatives, so it's going to measure if there's going to be an excess or a shortfall of cash flows based on the discounted present value of future cash flows less the initial cost of the investment. So the net present value is going to be the present value of the future cash flows minus the cost of the investment. So you might see questions like this on an exam where one might be, they're going to ask you to determine the net present value, or they're going to say, is this an investment that somebody should make given, these different variables? All right. So if the net present value is greater than 0, then that's a good investment. All right. If it's equal, if it's 0, then, it's indifferent, but you don't want to have a net present value that is less than 0 because that would not be a good investment. So let's look at some examples here. All right, so now let me get this back up so I can see you guys. All right, so David purchased a new printer for his company, and the printer cost him $10,000 and is expected to generate these cash flows for the next 4 years at the end of each year. So in year 1, 3,000, year 2, 4,000, year 3, 2,500, and year 4, 1,000. Okay, now assume that at the end of year 4, He can sell that printer for $2,000. His required rate of return is 8%. So what is the net present value and should he purchase the printer? All right, so your keystrokes are right here on the bottom of the left-hand side of the screen. So the first output is $10,000. All right, so when you, so you want to clear out your calculator, okay? You should have your calculator set to one payment per year, just to make sure that you have this set to annually. All right, so the first cash flow, the first outflow is $10,000. So you're going to do 10,000 and you're going to hit your minus button and hit your CFJ. And when you put that in, it's going to show CFJ 0. So that's your zero, your period 0. All right, in year 1, he is receiving $3,000. So you're going to hit 3,000 and you're just going to hit CFJ. And so that's your first cash flow, which is $3,000. In year 2, he's getting 4,000. So you're going to hit 4,000 CFJ and you're plugging that in and it tells you that's cash flow 2. In year 3, he's receiving $2,500 CFJ. Now in year 4, not only is he receiving that $1,000, but he's also selling that printer for $2,000. All right, so you're going to add the 1,000 and the 2,000, which is $3,000. So $3,000 is that cash flow, that fourth cash flow that you're putting in. He says he's going to earn 8%. So you're going to hit A, the number 8, and you're going to use your I/YR button. So we're going back to that button on the top row, second from the right. And we are solving for net present value, which is your orange shift button, and then your NPV, which is, I have to look for it because even, so it is on the second row, second button from the right. So in white, it says PRC, and in the orange, it says NPV. So you're going to hit your orange shift button, NPV, and your calculator should be displaying 396.8032. Okay. Now the net present value is greater than 0. So that means that he should consider purchasing it, right? Because it's positive. Okay. Everyone good? All right, let's look at another one. All right, Lisa is anticipating making the following tuition payments for her son, Carson, who is starting his first year of college today. How much must Lisa have in her college savings account to make the tuition payments above if she can earn 5% a year on her investments? Okay, so I'm going to clear out my calculator. All right, so she's got the following tuition payments: 10,000, 10,000, 15,000, and 15,000. Okay, so I'm gonna show you how you can plug in just 10,000, 10,000. Okay, and then we can do the shortcut for the 15,000. Okay, you can also do 10,000, 10,000, 15,000, 15,000. Okay, but we're going to show you the long way for the 10,000 and then the short way for 15,000. So first it's going to be 10,000. I'm going to hit CFJ and then 10,000 CFJ. And then I'm going to do 15. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm supposed to do these negative. Let me go back. I did not do that. So 10,000 negative CFJ, 10,000 negative CFJ, 15,000 negative CFJ. It's going to be for 2 years. So I'm going to do 2 shift NJ. She's earning 5%. So I'm going to hit 5 and my I/YR. And I'm solving for net present value. So I'm going to do my orange shift button and the NPV button. And then it comes up as 46,086. So that is how much money that Lisa needs to have in her account today to be able to pay those college tuition costs. Okay, so that's how you solve for net present value. All right, so now we're going to move on to internal rate of return. Okay. So again, an investment is going to be considered acceptable if the IRR equals or exceeds the required rate of return that the client has, and it should be rejected if it's less. So let's look at an example here. So David, we're back to David. All right, now we already know because we solved the net present value and it was positive that it was a good investment, but let's look at it solving for the internal rate of return, or IRR. Okay, David purchased the new computer, the printer. We've already seen those variables where he paid $10,000. He got the cash flows, and then he sold it at the end of the year. All right, so we would input all of those variables, but instead of solving for NPV, all right, you would be solving for IRR. That key is to the left on your calculator of the net present value. So it's the second row, middle button. In white, it says CST, and in the orange, it's IRR/YR. So that's the button that you're going to solve for internal rate of return. So let's actually do a practice one. All right, so 3 years ago, Sydney purchased a stock for $75, and over the past 3 years, the stock paid the following dividends. So we see we have the dividends of $2.25, $2.50, and $2.75. At the end of the third year, the stock was selling for $85, and so we want to know what Sydney's compounded rate of return is. All right, so here are our keystrokes. All right, so she bought it for $75, so that's a negative number. So it's 75 negative CFJ. And then the next year she received a dividend of $2.25. So I'm going to do 225 CFJ. And then in the following year, she got $2.50. So 250 CFJ. And then in year 3, she got $2.75, and then the stock was worth $85. All right, so we're going to do 87.75 CFJ, and then we're going to hit our orange shift button and the internal rate of return, IRR, and the answer is 7.4467. Okay. So remember, when you see like uneven cash flows like this, it's net present value or internal rate of return. Okay, and you're not using those buttons on the top, row, except when you're plugging in. If you were plugging in the interest. Sorry, I'm just looking to see what we have going on. Okay. So on page 50 in your textbook, okay, meaning textbook, the calculator book, all right, there's a timeline on here that may be helpful when you have a question like this, that I know that we don't have any questions like this on in general principles. Okay, so you don't like have to worry like, oh my God, that's a lot of years. Okay, but I want to show you this example so that you have it. We're not going to go through the keystrokes on here, but I want you to see how you could use a timeline so that you know how many years or how the cash flows would work. Okay, so Michael purchased 150 shares of ABC stock for $47. So that would be that 0 period on the timeline. And then today he sold all the shares. Okay, and then it shows all the dividends that the stock has paid over the years, and they want to know what was his rate of return, right? Yeah, the rate of return. Okay, so this is what it would look like on a timeline. Okay, and this is what your keystrokes would look like. Okay, so $47 is the amount that he initially paid. And then he had the dollar in the dividends for 4 years. Then he had the $1.50 for 4 years. He had $2, and then he sold it for $82, or at the end it was $82, and you're solving for IRR. So I wanted you to see how that will look if you had multiple cash flows. Okay, and how you would use the timeline. Okay, but I want to make sure we get to some of these more difficult questions. So I'm going to move forward unless anybody has questions on this.
Yes, I do have a question.
Okay,
I wanted to know if the dividends paid is also per share, or is it for the 150 shares?
they're just saying it's $1. So if they tell you it's $1, then he just got paid $1. So you don't have to do any multiplying based on the number of shares, if that's what you're asking.
Yes, I was confused about that.
Yeah, unless it will tell you, it should specify, no, he just got $1.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mm.
All right, so, ooh. what is
Back to
this?
that slide, please. I just had a quick question. Years 9 and 10 says $2, so that should be 2 years, right? Should I see that NJ?
So years 9 and 10. So well, here's the thing. In year 9, it was for 2 years, but in year 10, he sold it. So that cash flow is going to be $82.
Got it. It's
Yeah.
split. All right, thanks.
You're welcome. So, okay, here, Leah, let's look at this one other, another example for semi-annual compounding, because you might have a question that has a cash flow question, and you do have to change your calculator to reflect that it is semi-annual. So, hold on, let me read this. Frank brought. I don't know why. Hold on, this question's flubbing me up. Hold on. He bought a stock that paid the following dividends. Oh, because the dividends were paid. Okay, here we go. Yes. So Frank bought a stock for $50 that paid the following dividends. It paid these dividends twice a year. So they paid them semi-annually, right? In June and in December. All right, then the stock was selling for $60 on 12/31/01, and we want to know what his annual rate of return is. So since the dividends were being paid quarterly, we're going to have to set this, so not quarterly, semi-annually. We have to change our calculator to semi-annual. So it's going to be set to 2 payments per year. All right, and here are your cash flows. So the zero cash flow is $50. That's what the original purchase was. And then the first cash flow was $2, which was the one in June. Then at the end of the year, he got $2.75. There was nothing the following period. And then in the last 6 months, or that last semi-annual payment, it was $64 because the stock was selling for $60 and he received a $4 dividend. And we're solving for IRR. So your keystrokes are going to be the 50 minus CFJ, 2 CFJ, 275 CFJ. So if there is a zero cash flow, you still have to plug that in because that's still going to be affecting his rate of return. So you're going to do 0 CFJ. And then that last period was 64 CFJ. You're going to hit your orange shift button and IRR, and his rate of return is 17.4105. Okay. All right. And then after that is when I said, are you ready to move on? We good? Do some advanced stuff now to end the night? Okay. All right, so you guys are going to be utilizing inflation adjusted rate of returns. All right, and really when you're going to be using that in this class is when you're doing college funding questions. All right, so you need to have an inflation or use an adjusted, let me reset, an inflation adjusted rate of return when you have two things that are happening simultaneously. And that's when you have a lump sum that is growing at a rate of return in addition to an expense that's growing at a different rate of return. So I use this as an example. If I am earning 8.5% in my kids' 529 accounts, but the inflation rate simultaneously is growing at 6%. Okay, that's when I would need to know what the inflation adjusted rate of return is. And how you determine that on your calculator, okay, this is another shortcut for you guys. All right, so on your calculator, the keys that you're going to be utilizing, all right, is you're going to put in this particular case, I said that the inflation rate for college is growing at 6%. All right. So if you look at your keys, when I want to figure out an inflation adjusted rate of return, all right, the 6% here is the inflation rate. So I'm going to tell my calculator to use the correct rate, I'm going to put 1.06 and I'm going to hit the input button, which is on the second row, first button, and it says input in white. All right. And then I need to plug in the rate that I'm earning, which is 8.5%. So then I'm going to put 1.085. I'm going to hit my orange shift button. And then this button right here in white, it's percent. And then in orange, it says percent change. Okay, on the display, it's going to show 2.358. And I want to tell the calculator that's the rate of return that I need you to use. And then I hit I/YR to plug it in to the calculator. Okay, so let's look at an example of how you would use that. Okay, so Jill and Brandon are sending their son, who is currently 18, to a university that's costing $40,000 a year in today's dollars. Okay, tuition's due at the beginning of each year for the next 4 years. They can earn 11% on their investments and they expect inflation for college to be 6%. How much do they have to invest today to meet their goal? Okay, we know that they have to pay for school in today, right now, at the beginning of the year. So we're going to use begin mode. So you're going to set your calculator to begin mode. It's a college funding question. All right, so get your calculator set there. They want to know that it's going to be 4 years. We know that the inflation rate is 6% and the rate of return is 11%. We're solving for present value. And we know that the annual payment is going to be $40,000 a year. So this is what it's going to look like on your display. So you're going to already hopefully have set your calculator to begin mode. All right. You're going to do 4N. Now in this case, I didn't put my orange shift button, but if you're getting used to doing that, you're going to do 4 shift N and your display is going to show 4 for 4 years. And now we need to use an inflation adjusted rate of return. So your steps are that you're going to do 1.06. You're going to hit that input button, which again is the first button on the second row on the left. Then you're going to hit 1.11, your orange shift button, and then the percent change button, which is on the third row, second from the left. And then on your register, it should show 4.7170, and you're going to hit the I/YR. So that is telling your calculator to use that inflation adjusted rate of return. Okay. she's going to be, or they're going to be spending $40,000 annually. That's their payment. So it's 40,000. You're going to hit the minus button and your payment key to plug that in. And we are solving for present value, which is 149,510. Okay, let me just take one step back and tell you, this is getting you prepared or giving you showing you what you're going to be doing later in this class. Okay, what we just went through before this, okay, that's what you can expect on your time value of money quiz and on your midterm. Okay, this is a little more advanced, so that's one of the reasons why it's later. But I want you to be familiar with it and knowing the keystrokes, so you can't say that you hadn't seen it. Okay, so don't freak out if this isn't making sense. But the other stuff that's a little bit easier, that's what you'll be seeing on your time value money quiz and on your midterm. Okay, so I don't want you all to worry about that. All right, and that's why we're going to go a little bit faster on this too. So serial payments. All right, so serial payments are a little bit different from annuity payments because these are equal dollar amounts. Okay, so let's just look here at an example of a serial payment for a future sum. So Jennifer's looking to buy a condo in 5 years for $100,000 in today's dollars. She can earn 9% on her investments and she expects inflation to be 3%. So what serial payment should Jennifer make at the end of the first year? Okay. So inflation, remember, is happening at 3% per year. Okay. So she wants to know what serial payment should she be making at the end of the first year. All right. So let's look here at our variables. It's 5 years. Inflation is 3%. Her rate of return is 9%. There is no present value. She's looking to know how much she needs to save for a future value of $100,000. So our keystrokes, we're going to be back in end mode. All right. So it's 5 years, 5 shift button N for 5. We're going to input our inflation adjusted rate of return. So the inflation in this one is 3%. So 1.03, we're going to do our input button. 1.09, our shift button, hit percent change to make sure that your calculator tells you that the adjusted rate of return is 5.8252. You're going to hit the I/YR to plug it in. The future value is $100,000. And we're solving for payment, which is $17,801. However, it's going to be at the end of the first year. So we need to multiply that to get the correct answer for that 3% inflation rate. So it's going to be 17,801 times 1.03. And then the answer is 18,335. Okay. All right, let me see what else we have. Okay, so let's keep going here.
Quick question.
Yes.
For that inflation rate, is that assuming a 3% inflation rate over the 5 years or a 3% inflation rate every year for 5 years?
So it is every year for 5 years, but they want to know what is the payment at the end of the first year. So you have to multiply it times that 3%.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. And again, these are way more advanced. I mean, I'm not sure that there's anything, I'm trying to think if there's anything like this on the final. Let me see what time it is. I'm gonna just, I want you guys to go back and look at this slide. This is similar because for time there's a couple of things I definitely want to go over that's in the upcoming slides. But this is the same type of question where it's asking what is the serial payment that Joe needs to make at the end of the first, second, and third. And you're going to have to, again, multiply times the inflation rate after you find your payment to get those answers. Okay, so this is similar to the question that I just showed you before. So definitely review this and be familiar with it so that you know how to do it. But for time purposes, I'm going to move on to debt repayments on this next slide here. Okay, because it's already 8:45. All right, so let's just go back and look at a debt repayment. So remember, I talked about this. What time period are debt payments usually made for mortgages, car payments, loan payments?
And
Monthly.
And right, monthly and end mode, right? Okay. All right. So let's look at how you would solve for a mortgage monthly payment. Okay, so remember that mortgages are monthly. All right, so you're going to set your calculator to 12 periods. So Jill bought a house for $200,000. She put 20% down. She's borrowing the rest. Her note is for 15 years. And I think her interest rate, it tells us that it's 8%. I'm sure that's in the body of the question. I can't see because I have this blocked, but what is her monthly mortgage payment? All right. So you're going to set your calculator to the monthly periods. Now, because remember she borrowed, she's buying it for $200,000, but she's putting 20% down. So she's financing $160,000. All right. So that's going to be your present value. And we are solving for payment. So your keystrokes here would be, you're going to hit 15, your orange shift button and end, it's 180 months. And you're in end mode, remember. She's paying 8% per year. She borrowed $160,000. That's her present value. And she's solving for payment. We want to know what are her payments going to be, which is $1,529 a month. Okay, now you might have a question, all right, that continues on with this that says, what is the principal and the interest? Okay, so the way that you're going to figure that out is all the variables are the same, except if you look on your calculator, so you have an amortization button, which is in the top right-hand corner. It's actually under the future value button. Okay, so in orange, you see amort. Okay, so you don't have to change anything for those of you that hopefully keyed all of the variables in. If you hit the orange shift button and then the amortization button and then equal, okay, the equal button, which is bottom row, second from the right. Okay, period. It'll display period 1 through 12, and it'll say 5,756 PRIN. That's your principal. And if you hit the equal button again, it'll display 12,591, and that's your interest. So you could have a question in, let's say, tax, in the tax class, you know, what is the interest that is deductible, you know, for the first 12 months of that year? Okay, so again, I'm just wanting to show you some examples of where you might be using this. All right. I always show this. Y'all don't need to, I'm not going to go through this right now, but look at it because in this particular question, all right, as we all know, or maybe we don't all know, but when we buy a home, we don't always close on December 31st of the year. Oftentimes you close in the middle of the year and you have interest that might be deductible or that could be deductible for that year. So this example just shows you that David, who bought a house, and it was, you know, the first payment was due July 1st, how you would determine how much interest and principal there was for the year that he closed. All right, and so I have all the buttons very clearly marked how you would determine. He was in there for 6 months that first year, and the interest that would be deductible is $6,978. And then he wants to know how much is going to be deductible for the second, you know, that full year, which is period 7 through 18. So again, we're not going to test you on this in this class. This is just so that you are made aware of how to use this in your calculator. You'll see this again in other classes, but I just wanted to make sure that you guys have seen it. Now, what you will see in this class is whether or not a client should take a cash rebate or 0% financing on a new car, and how should a lottery winner take their money. All right, so let's look at this question. So Jan is looking to buy a new car for $40,000, and the dealer has two options. She can either get $5,000 back on the price of the car and finance it for 5 years at 4%, or she can finance the car for 6 years at 0% and no rebate. So the question is, what's going to be better? What should she do? Okay, so in option one, the calculator is set to monthly periods, and I'm going to repeat this again. You will see something like this in this class on an exam. Okay, so it has been set, right, Ben? Is Ben still here? I think I'm not sure, but anyway. All right, so you're going to set your calculator to monthly periods. All right, so our variables are 5, your shift button for 60 months. She's going to be financing it for 4 years, or could finance it. I'm sorry, pay 4% over 5 years. She would be financing $35,000. That's the present value because there was a rebate, and the payment is $644 a month. All right, so her total cost under option one is going to be $38,675, right? Because you take $644 per month times 60 months. All right, the total cost under option two is going to be $40,000 because there's no rebate and it's 0%. All right, so she would be better off doing option one, right? Okay, so you'll see something like that. And then let's look at lottery winnings, all right?
Andrea, back a step on there.
Sure thing.
With inflation, it's not always so obvious. Certainly if it was the same time period of 5 years versus 6 years, but if the total payment over 6 years being higher is sometimes better than 5 years.
Well, we're not going to take, yeah. So one of the things that I'll caution you is try not to read too much into that, like bringing inflation into it. This is a black and white question. They're just asking you, what would be the better choice if she was going to do it today? Not taking this information into account.
Okay.
And so, yeah, if Andrea says you'll see it again, make sure you circle this and you understand how to do it. And that's a good point, Ross. And that's something that I got a problem with, as I start reading into a whole bunch of stuff into questions, and we got to be careful not to do that. So you got to, just like Andrea said, it's black and white, only answer what they're asking for. Don't start adding stuff to it. And you'll see this in all the classes. It is, well, hey, wait a minute. What if, they had this on their insurance, or what if they did this? I caution you not to do that, because you're going to be so full of knowledge by the time this program's over. Just answer all they're asking and leave it at that.
That's what makes the exam so hard, especially for those of us that are in the industry or in any job where we have to bring other variables into real life, because real life, those are things that we have to look at. But they're just asking this black and white question, and it's so easy to do that. Okay, and then I have one more example to show you, and then all right. So again, you will see something like this as well. All right. So Bob won $50 million in the lottery. He elected to receive a single lump sum payout of $22 million after taxes, or should he receive an annuity of $1.5 million after tax, which begins immediately and lasts for the next 20 years? What rate of return would he need to make the lump sum payout equivalent to the annuity payment? Should he take the lump sum payment or the annuity? Okay, so remember, it's an annuity, and it tells you right here that it's going to be, he's going to take it immediately. All right, so we're going to be in begin mode. All right, the cash is coming at the beginning of the time period. All right, it's going to be for 20 years. Our calculator should be set to one payment per year. And so he's got the $22 million, okay, which is going to be your present value. So we have to have that entered in as a negative number, and this time I have that in the right order. So negative present value. And then we have $1.5 million in payment that he could elect to take. All right, so that's going to be in as a positive, and we are solving for I/YR. Okay, what is the rate of return that he would need to earn to make that lump sum payment equivalent? He would need to make 3.53% on his, that would need to be his rate of return to make it equivalent. Okay. So that is, so you will see a question, a lottery question, and I think it's on the final. And if not on the final, I think it's almost certain it's on the final. So on the review where I have, let's review it, that is the questions that are on the portal already, or the, call it the portal, use the HISD thing, on Canvas. Okay, and I think there's like 10 questions or so, something like that. So I would encourage you guys to work those. And then the answers are on there already, also for you guys to check yourselves. But if you guys can solve those, then you'll do great on the time value of money. And if you have any questions on this, feel free to email me or email Ben, and then he can ask me. But my email address is real easy. It's just Andrea@AndreaFriedman.com. Unless anybody has questions for me, then I will pass it back to Ben.
I have one question.
Okay.
What is the difference between whenever you type N without clicking the orange button before?
There isn't. It's some on an annual. Okay, so when you have one payment per year, you don't have to hit that orange button before you hit N for it to populate correctly. So I try to include it and encourage you guys just to be used to hitting that orange button all the time, regardless if it's annual or semi-annual, just so you're in the habit of it. Because if you have your calculator set to anything other than annual payments and you don't hit that orange shift button before you hit N, it will not populate it correctly.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay.
Any other question for Andrea?
All right,
right.
I'll see you guys on the last night of class. So Ben, thanks for letting me pop in and do this.
Thank you, Andrea. Thanks for leading the time value money. That was very useful because I would probably just be more confusing using the 12C. It doesn't have the quick steps like yours has. So appreciate that. So keep in mind, I did look, it's under the quiz is under Canvas. It's under tonight's module or tonight's class. You can go in and pull it off and then print it. Make sure you work through it before you turn around and go to the quizzes tab under Canvas and submit your answers. Remember that you have all the way through Sunday at 11:59 Central Standard Time to get those answers input. Also keep in mind, or just remember that Monday night is MLK, or Monday day is MLK Remembrance Day. So we will not have class Monday night. So we'll see you next Wednesday that we'll pick up. We'll review the time value money quiz. And again, Andrea touched on it several times, and go back and make sure you understand. If she says you'll see something again, make sure you can do those questions really well, because you'll see them again. But for the quiz, make sure that you read through them and you pay attention to detail, because as she said earlier, it's going to be change signs, beginning mode, end mode, all the little nuances that you're going to have to do quarterly, semi-annual, annual. And as she said, you're going to have a beginning answer in there and an ending answer in there. And so you're going to forget to switch to end mode after you did a beginning mode calculation, and you're going to do your math and you're going to see, oh, hey, the answer's here. It must be correct. So, make sure that you get all the keystrokes set correctly and you go through and do them. So you guys have now made it through 2 classes in your program. Awesome. So yeah. Any more questions tonight before we let you guys go and have a good long weekend?
So just on the quiz, we download the quiz document as soon as we're done here if we want to, but we don't. Then how do you initiate the quiz, the time portion of the quiz again?
Okay, so good question. So you'll go pull the document off of Canvas and the modules. You'll work through it, and then you'll go to Canvas and you'll go to Quizzes tab, and you'll click on that, and then they all should be grayed out or shouldn't be highlighted except for quiz 1. And it'll only be available tonight after 9 p.m. and only through Sunday at 11:59 standard time. So after you've done all the work, then you go to the quizzes tab and you click on it, and it will start the 30-minute timer, but that should give you more than ample time to take your answers and put them into the quizzes tab.
All right, so if you just go to the modules page and you download the quiz file, that doesn't start your clock.
That's correct. Just make sure you don't do it under the quizzes tab. You just do it under tonight's module, tonight's class.
Okay.
Good question. Any other questions? All right, well, I've already got attendance. You guys have a great evening and a great weekend. See you all Wednesday. Remember, Monday's no class. Nobody will be here.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Thanks,
Thank
Andrew.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so Andrea, so you should, hopefully you'll be in the classroom next time you teach, but I can put up to 50 students on my screen at one time if you want me to walk you
Yes,
through.
how did you do that?
So if you go to video down at the bottom,
Okay, hold on. Let me get rid of the chat thing here. Wait, hold on, close that. Okay, so I go to the video.
and then there's that little up arrow does settings,
Wait, the video, like where it
the
says
little
stop.
camera.
Oh, that,
the-
okay, okay.
Yeah, and then
Video
go to
settings,
video settings,
huh? Okay,
and then let's see, if you scroll down the very bottom, it says 25 participants or 49 participants.
oh, let me scroll down. Oh, okay,
So check the 49 participants, since we have more than 25 in class when we count,
Okay.
you, me, and then once that's done, you can save that and you can exit out of it.
where do you save it? That's
I
not-
think it just automatically does as long
Oh,
as you
okay,
click it.
Okay, all right,
And then on the right-hand side of the screen, there should be a little bitty grid that says view.
on the right-hand side, view. Oh, oh yeah, on the upper right, yep, okay. And then you do gallery?
Gallery.
Mhm. So, okay, that must have been, but when you have your slides up, so I'm on a laptop, so I
So-
can only see like 4 or, like 4 or 5 on the right-hand corner.
So I have one big like 50-inch screen back here, and then my laptop here that I work from. and
Okay.
My screen's attached. So what I do is I have all the students on one area, and then I have the slides on another area so that I can be
Okay.
looking at the slides as I'm talking. If you have one screen, you'd have to make everything